Hi guys, it's Steven Sun at Homes by Sun with Remax. Hopefully everyone had a great long weekend, Victoria Day long weekend. So it's a short work week for the adults and it's a short school week for the kids. Now, we're here to talk about what happened in real estate last week. But before we get into all the data, I wanted to discuss something that I think is pretty relevant right now. If you've read the news, you know the market is a little bit cooler, it's a little bit quieter. But I read an article and it's very interesting that it talks about right now we are in a state of market correction instead of a market crash. What's the difference? Well, a market correction is simply the market readjusting to the current demand and supply. A market crash is more to do with oversupply of things. And so the prices, all the sellers are dropping their prices by a lot and trying to encourage sales. But right now, we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is, yes, sellers are dropping prices, but a lot of sellers are also staying put with the prices that they were hoping to get before. Now, that in terms leads to lower transactions, lower number of transactions, but the supply in the market hasn't really changed that much overall. It's just that now there are less buyers, I would say less speculators in the market driving up the prices. So prices haven't gone up, the average price, they have come down, but they are not crashing, like dropping 25%, 30% that I've been hearing from a lot of clients. Or their friends are saying, oh, the market dropped so much. It hasn't. It's just that probably in the tail end of the market increase towards the middle of March, we saw the market was at the peak of its increase. But if we look back at January and February, we can see that right now we're back into the January, February kind of pricing. It's still higher than the last year's average price. So we've come down from the top, but it's not a crash, meaning no one is fire selling anything. You may find a few, the odd listings that sold for way under market value. Those are probably sellers that bought in the last few months and they really need to sell. Majority of the listing that I'm seeing, they are holding out. So we have a little bit of a stalemate right now. Buyers think the prices is going to go down more, so they're not going to make a move now. And the seller think that, in a month or so, whoever needs to buy is actually going to make a move, is going to buy. So there's a little bit of stalemate right now, and it's probably a good thing for the market to have a little bit of a correction so that it's more sustainable going forward. The kind of increase that we saw in January, February was not sustainable. The demand was not that much to justify the increase in prices. It was more, a lot of investors had the FOMO effect, fear of missing out. So they kind of got into the market trying to buy something when they saw prices were rising quickly. Those people are out right now. So we have a very balanced market. Things are going to take a little bit longer to sell. Or if you're a buyer, you have a little bit more time to buy, which is normal. In a balanced market, things should take a couple months to sell, which is completely normal, in my past history. So let's get into the numbers right now. Let me share my screen and we can talk about what happened in the G.T.A market last week. Okay, so we are looking at the numbers for the week of May 14 to May 20. And we can see that the number of new listings has actually decreased, which is what I was saying last week. A lot of times sellers are not getting the amount that they were looking for, and they're not in a hurry to sell. They don't need to sell right now, are pulling their listings off the market. This is why it is a correction and not a crash, because we're seeing a lot of sellers, rather than selling their property for cheap, they're taking it off the market. They're going to wait. They might come back in June, or a lot of times they were waiting for the long weekend to pass before they put their listings back on. So we saw a decrease in the number of new listings last week. Next week, when we look at the numbers for this week, I would anticipate this number to be a little bit higher. So we should have an influx of new listings or relists that come back. If we look at the number of transactions, number of sold, it actually went up, which is a good sign. So when you have less inventory and more demand, it leads to a better outcome for the prices. In terms of selling over asking, we're still hovering around 52%. So if you are a seller and you price it just below what the market price should be, there's still 50% chance you're going to get multiple offers. What we're seeing is when offer day comes, number of offers are around 2 to 5 right now, unless it's drastically underpriced. Getting more than 5 offers is very rare, but you can still expect to get 2 or 3 if the property shows really nice, it's well kept, and it's very well priced. You are still going to get multiple offers. Now we look at the average price. Yes, it has been decreasing. That is understandable. It's a correction. Prices have to come down a bit, but you can see the line is very gradual. We don't have a sharp drop. It's not like the crash in the 90s where things were just drop off a cliff, that kind of decrease. What we're seeing is a slow decrease, and I think eventually the buyers who are on the sideline right now are going to get back into the market, make a move in the next couple of months, and we should see the prices slowly increase back up. On the condo side, we saw last week also a decrease in the number of new listings, so 886 new listings came onto the market. The number of transactions, 339, which is still same level as the weeks before, so it hasn't gone up, hasn't gone down that much. It's still pretty stable, the number of transactions. This is talking about just Toronto. Now 339 is a very small number. It's around half of the peak. So in the condo side, things are definitely slow. I have a few condos listed. We're getting showings, but very, very slow. So I think the condos is going to take a little while to recover. But once the detached or the freehold ones recover, we'll see prices starting to go back up. Then first-time home buyers or newly landed immigrants, they will go for the condo. So condos should pick up after. The average price for condos hasn't really gone down that much. And this is exactly what I'm seeing as well, is that condo sellers are pricing their condos at, April, I would say April prices. So whatever they were priced in April, they're still holding out. So I'm not seeing a drastic drop in the listing price of condos just yet. I think because the amount is not that much, and a lot of sellers are not in deep financial trouble right now, so they're not fire selling their condos. The odd ones, like I said before, the odd ones you may be selling way below, but once those ones are gone, the rest are still at market price as of around April pricing. So that is the overall market for GTA, and continuing our discussion from the week from last week, we were looking at 5 things that I think buyers should pay attention to on a status certificate when they are buying a condominium. And this applies in good times and applies in bad times as well. All the more important to review the status certificate by although by a lawyer, but you should also take a look at it yourself, just so that there may be questions that you can ask the lawyer for them to look a little bit into more details. So these are the 5 things that we have been discussing. How much is the reserve fund? What is the actually included in the condo fees? These 2 were discussed last week. So if you missed that, watch the video for last week, and the latter part, I give a little tidbits for real estate, and this was discussed last week. Today, this week, we're talking about the last 3 points. So we're going to talk about why you need to know how many units are leased, who's the management company, and are there any ongoing legal issues against the condo. So first thing is units leased. A lot of buyers never really pay attention to this number. They say, well, why do I need to care? Section 24 of the status certificate lists the number of units leased. Why is that important? Like, if it wasn't important, why would they even bother listing it? It is important to know, for you to know, because the number of tenants has a direct impact on not only the condo fee, but also the value of the building. So, for example, if the utilities are included and there are a lot of tenants in the building, what ends up happening is, because they're tenants, they're not paying for the hydro, so they're going to try to, and they're not owners, they don't have to pay the condo fee. They're going to probably waste a lot more energy. They're going to leave the lights on, maybe turn the AC really low. Even when they're at work, they like to keep it cool, or they leave and leave the computers running. Things like that will actually affect the condo fees that everyone in the building pays. So then, if it's an older building, utilities are included, you want to check what's the percentage of rental units that are rented. The high percentage of tenant also means that there are a lot of non-owners. With a lot of non-resident owners, what happens is the common areas are likely going to be less well kept, and the value of the condo is going to be affected when there's a downturn. So imagine this: you have a couple of investment properties, and when the market kind of slows down like this, a lot of investors, a lot of landlords are thinking, well, I've had a good run. My condos increased to X amount. I'm ready to cash out. I think the condo market is going to drop, so I'm going to cash out. It is a lot easier for an investor to put their unit up for sale than a unit owner. Similar story, if you were an owner living in the condo and you see the market dropping, what you're going to tell yourself is, well, yeah, the market is dropping, but I'm not in a hurry to move to anywhere. I'm just going to stay put. So as you can see, if there are a lot of investor owners in the market downturn, you're going to have a lot of units that suddenly come up for sale on the market, and it will further drive down the value of the condo. But if the condo is mostly owner occupied, then you don't have that worry, because it is less likely that a bunch of owners are suddenly going to pack up and say, well, I better sell now. I better move, because they still have to buy. So in that aspect, you don't want a building with a lot of tenants. They're likely going to also affect the voting of important items. If a building has majority of owner occupied, when there is an annual meeting, they're most likely going to show up, because they live there, they want to know what's going on, and they're going to vote on things that are affecting them. But if you have a lot of foreign owners, investors owning the condos, they're not going to go to these general meetings, and they won't even submit their proxy to vote. And so nothing gets done, right? So in summary, avoid building with a high percentage of rental, as it's going to affect the value of the unit. And also, when the rental market doesn't do well, you're going to have too many units that are trying to fight for a small group of tenants. And so it's not good for the rental as well. Which company manages the condo? So this is something that I don't hear people ask, is that who is the management company? And not all management companies are equal. There are some management companies who are notoriously terrible at managing condos. They are disorganized, they don't respond, and they hire the wrong people to work on the units. So there are a couple of things you can do to research. You can check out the records on Condominium Management Regulatory Authority of Ontario. You can find out from Status Certificate who's the property manager, management company, and check for any violations that they have. And also, it's a good thing to find out if there's an on-site office. A lot of times, if the property management office is off-site, when you have an issue that you need to deal with, you're only going to be able to call them or email them. You can't go in and see somebody. A lot of things gets done a lot better when you can walk into a management office and actually speak to the person who's managing the unit. That way you get a quicker reply. You get to meet face to face, put a face to the name, and so any issues gets resolved faster. So a good management company will not only help protect your investment, but also help implement good security measure, because they're on site. They know what's going on. They can keep the building safe. They can keep you safe. So it's a plus to buy into a building with a good management company. And the very last thing is, you need to take a quick look at if there is any ongoing legal issues against the condo. So section 18 to 22 discloses if there are any ongoing legal issues against the condo that you should be aware of. Typically, I see a lot of lawsuit in regard to slip and fall. Canada is cold, we get snow, it's winter. Sometimes people walk in the front of foyer or front of the building, and there's a patch of ice, they didn't see, they slip, and they say, hey, you didn't put enough salt, and so it's a slip and fall claim. A lot of these claims or a lot of these lawsuits are handled by the condo, insurance company. Sorry, the insurance company will defend on behalf of the condo. So these issues don't really affect your condo fee that much, because they tend to settle, and the insurance will pay them off. There might be a change in the premium, but that's for the whole building. However, there are some lawsuits that will have a direct impact on the owner as whole. I've seen a lot of lawsuits suing the builder. I've seen builders suing the condo corporations. I have seen banks suing the condo corporations for default on, because a lot of the guest suites are not owned by they're owned by the condo corporations, and maybe they didn't pay. So lawsuits such as those are not covered under insurance. They may not, and so it may impact what the outcome may impact what each owner are responsible for. So make sure you check that section. And if you see any red flags, ask your lawyer for their opinion, see if something you should be aware of. Now, if there is a judgment, it doesn't mean the deal needs to be killed. Like you don't have to like get out. There are some judgment amount that if you divide up the percentage of ownership, it's not that much. Maybe it's like $2,000-3,000 per unit. It's something that you can renegotiate with the seller and maybe get that abated on the purchase price right now, even though it may not happen. So find out what's the worst case, what's your liability, then decide from there whether you're going to walk away from the deal or ask for a rebate, ask for adjustment to the price. So definitely, status certificate is something you should have a look at yourself, but discuss with your lawyer before you waive the conditions. Most lawyers now will give you a summary, a report of what they think, and you can call them, get their opinion, whether you should waive the condition or not. But other things you should, like the ones that we discussed, you should also be aware of so that you can make a more informed decision when you're buying. So that is that for this week, and hopefully the information presented has been useful for you. If so, subscribe, hit the like button if you are watching this on YouTube. And next week, we'll come back and discuss what's happening in the real estate market for Toronto or GTA this week. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully have a wonderful rest of the week, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye for now.